First of all, I'm out of ideas for introduction speech, so fuck that shit, cause today I'm about to teach you all how to get this kind of sound, so without further ado let's do the shit. What we have here is pretty complex pack of guitar tracks and we're gonna review them one by one right now. Guitar L and Guitar R channels are crunchy rhythms, check them shits out. Panning settings for them is 91% left and 91% right, both routed to guitar's bus and has exactly same processing model, so we'll review only one of them. Using REVERB 4th for reamping, this time I don't use any pedals or compressors in front of 6505. You can also see that we use rhythm channel with pretty big amount of gain on preamp and power amp. This way I keep it heavy enough and still have enough of dynamics. Speaking of schematics, yes, I tweaked this shit as well, so just as always you will find this preset at the additional files. You can see that cab section is bypassed and you all know what it means. Keyfair impulse loader loaded with custom mix ready cabinet, check this shit. Damn, this shit sounds rad, so just in case if you want to get the shit, it will be at the additional files as well. Next 2 channels is something that I never showed you before, glassy clean layers to add some of that nice ass strings attack to them crunch guitars, check this shit. This shit is alive now. Both have same processing model, just as rhythm guitars them shits routed to guitar's bus, but this time I use narrower panning settings, just to put it deeper in mix. So speaking of processing, first thing in chain is this EQ, which deletes boomy lows and mids and also boosts string attack zone on 8 kHz. SHB1 head by Ignite amps to add solid dose of brightness. Pro L limiter to squash the fuck out of them peaks, just to be sure that shits doesn't jump out of our shit. Matter fact, as a side effect we get solid damage of the sound, but I don't give a fuck. There is also center guitar pack, check this shit. Lead main and lead octave are based on rhythm guitar's processing model, so we use same revolver fourth preset with same impulse, but post EQ settings for each guitar are slightly different. On lead main track I cut it out unwanted boomy low end, ringy mid-range and harshy highs on 5 kHz and then added wide boost of mids to add more body to the shit. Lead octave EQ does pretty much the same thing, but this time we have different problem zones. And we also have same clean guitar layer for lead guitar. Speaking of panning, it goes bit out of center for each guitar to spread this lead guitars in stereo of mix. All of them lead guitar shits routed to lead guitar's bus, just to give it tiny bit more processing and make it sit better in mix. So first plugin is simple ping pong delay with these settings. Next thing is pair of EQ and oh boy lots of crazy shit going on here. Before we'll go for them, just to let you know that I added second EQ on latest stages of mixing, so each EQ is just different mixing step. Here's the first one. High pass and low pass filters and lots of cuts all over the spectrum to get rid of them resonances. Speaking of second EQ, cutting out even more resonances and get rid of fizzy highs with more radical low pass filter to make this track more smooth and dark and put it deeper in mix. Last thing is limiter with compensated output, just to squash them leads little bit. This bus is also routed to guitar's bus, so now we can finally go for the shit. First thing here is NLS and mic mode, just to add bit of console saturation to the shit. Next plugin is Isotope Ozone Exciter to glue them tracks together. Incoming sensitivity has been decreased to -10 decibels to keep signal in safe zone, and output section has 4 decibels boost, just enough to have constant level before and after of this plugin. This way we can hear pure effect of the saturator. Check this out. Next thing is Keyfire with Bus Fix Impulse, which I made to improve timbre shifts provided by NLS and Tape Exciter. As a result, we have deeper integration of 2 previous plugins in processing chain. However, difference is very subtle. Stereo imager to narrow stereo image and make it closer to the center. And last thing is pair of EQ for final integration to the mix. Each one means different mixing step and some of them can look too complex, so keep in mind that you can find them shits at the additional files pack. And finally this bus goes to master bus. Speaking of sends, we have send to reverb bus from lead guitar bus. Same reverb sends from left and right clean guitars. And finally this little last send from guitars bus. Just as always, we're gonna use Trillion for bass sampling, so check this out. Hardcore finger big pause on this name full range thick samples here. Internal processing is bypassed, amp section is bypassed as well, so we only have this amount of DI signal out of the shit. First thing in chain is IRP1 impulse. For those of you who don't know what this shit is, I'll leave link to IRP pack promo video in the description. Even though this one designed for low C tuning, I found that it works on standard E pretty good as well. The thing is to use lower velocity values, between 50 and 70, because this shit triggers middle articulation of hardcore finger and make our bass closer to what regular ass bassists play. And now check out how it affects the tone with full processing chain. Much less robotic, isn't it? Next thing is bass overdrive pedal by TSE to add some of that warm low end and just a tiny bit of saturation. I will demonstrate the difference with CLA bass processor activated, because pedal's output level is high enough to trigger master bus's saturators, and comparison doesn't make any sense in this case. And speaking of CLA bass, I use these settings. Keyfire again, but this time it loaded with impulse of another mix-ready cabinet to finish humanization work. CLA 76 to get overall control on dynamics and add solid dose of saturation to the shit. Next thing is multi-band compressor, check this out. First band controls level of fundamental frequencies of our shit so they doesn't jump out of the shit. Second band works on higher bass and mid-range zone with slightly less amount of compression. In this zone we have a lot of string hits and we focus them by using short 10 milliseconds attack. And finally last two bands has extremely short attack and big amount of gain reduction. As a result we get fuller string attack. However, gain compensation of each band is different, so looks like I also did some rebalance of the shits. Because of the fact that this compressor lies in post-fader zone, I couldn't use mixer's faders to balance level of the shit anymore, so I used this output controller for this purpose. You probably hear that high-end whistle, don't you? Looks like we get the shit as a side effect of them high-end boosts, and that's why we have this gate in front of compressor. I also use smoother attack to get rid of very first transient, which appears with very first hit of bass after few seconds of silence. And finally last thing is this EQ. Few drops on outstanding low frequencies, drops on rainy zones around 2 kHz, boost on mids and highs to add some of them growly 500 Hz and make our shit brighter on 8 kHz. After all that shit, this channel goes to master bus. And of course we have sent to reverb. Looks like I'm gonna make you all happy again, because this time we go for superior without touching SSD4, so let's look inside of the sampler. Pretty minimalistic kit this time, but still, I'm gonna click on them elements of the shit so you can check names of samples in this window. We're gonna process it externally, so there is no any kind of inserts and shit. We also using multi-out mode, which means that every mic or group of mix goes to its own outputs outside of superior. So 3KD mix goes to kick channel. 4SD mix goes to snare channel. 20H mix goes to overheads channel. These two AMB mix goes to ambience channel. And finally this far ambience mic goes to ambience trig channel outside of sampler. I used this one to give stereo supportion to kick and snare, so bleed of this one only contains kick and snare samples. By the way, bleed settings of other channels have different parameters as well, but there is too much shits to show, so I'll just put this preset at the additional files so you can use the shit. Speaking of velocities, it's 127 everywhere, but in the end it doesn't even matter. Every drum channel here is routed to master bus, so let's go for actual processing of the shit starting from kick. First thing in chain is this equalizer. You can see whole bunch of them bells around 200 Hz, and if you look at the resulting curve, shit man, it could be replaced with single wide drop. So generally it is wide drop on higher bass zone, and this shit makes our low end cleaner. There is also low cut filter to get rid of unwanted sub lows. Wide boost on 5 and 6 kHz, and finally drop 10 kHz because this shit is too clicky for this mix. SSL compressor to make our kick tiny bit more fuller. Our bass exciter to focus low end body of kick. Pro limiter to squash them peaks a bit and gain RMS of kick. NLS in mic mode. You can see that we use dual mono mode, which means that left and right channels get independent saturation of two different spikes. As a result, we get big and wide kick drum sound. Send to reverb bus. Snare. First thing in chain is Oxford inflator to add some distortion to raw snare and gain its RMS a bit. EQ with complex timbre shape on rainy mid-range, low cut filter to get rid of unwanted low end attack, and also 10 kHz boost for brightness. SSL compressor to focus 10 milliseconds attack bit more and make our snare fuller. Multiband exciter and tape mode to add solid dose of fire and heat the shit up. SSL compressor for aggressive compression and even more distortion as a side effect of high-level output of the plugin. NLS do pretty much the same thing that on kick and also adds tiny bit of body. And finally EQ to get rid of unwanted low-end attack which reappeared because of compression and saturation. We also cut ringy resonance around 270 Hz and smoothen up fuzzy high-end. Again, used output boost to make snare louder and mix. Because of the fact that NLS lies in post-fader zone, I couldn't choose default fader anymore. Send to reverb bus. Overheads. First thing in chain is Isotope Ozone 5 EQ with matching option for automatic timbre correction. Just as always, you'll find them matching sessions at the additional files. Pro Q to get rid of unwanted low-end, transparently reduce boxy mids, add solid dose of brightness around 10 kHz and also get rid of them resonances to avoid of frequency conflicts with other elements of mix. Stereo enhancer to narrow stereo image of overheads and make them closer to center. Prog EQ by T-Rax to boost 10 kHz zone even more, but this time more smoothly using analog type of EQ. And final thing is NLS for tiny bit of console saturation. Also this little last send to reverb. Ambience. First thing in chain is simple EQ with high cut filter to avoid of frequency conflicts with overheads. Automatic timbre correction with isotope ozone. Just the same as we did on overheads, overdriven CLA 76 in all mode to get aggressive compression and distortion and uncover character of room. Stereo enhancer to narrow stereo image, just as we did on overheads. And finally an LS with tiny bit of console saturation. AMB trigger channel. First of all, CLA 76 in all mode to overdrive and overcompress the shit. Next thing, EQ with complex timbre shape to add some brightness and get rid of unwanted sub-lows, ringy mids and clicky highs. Envelope shaper to decrease attacks of kick and snare and make this channel more transparent and less noticeable in mix. Our bass exciter to recover low-end information, but this time, with fixed envelope dynamics. And last thing in chain, NLS in mic mode, to spread the stereo a little bit and also heat our shit up. Y'all know how we go for the space. All of them sends goes to this reverb bus. That's how it sounds soloed. Here's them settings of reverb. NLS at the end. just as all the others. This bus routed to master bus, and before we'll finally go for the shit, take a look at them levels and panning settings of mix one more time. First of all, just as always, incoming sensitivity of master bus has been dropped 10 decibels down to have enough headroom on NLS and avoid it from clipping. Speaking of NLS, tiny bit of drive to glue them shits together and add tiny bit of console saturation. Next, EQ is used as gain stage plugin to compensate 10 decibels drop, so now we have 10 decibels boost, no any equalization. Stereo imager to provide more accurate work of multi-bin compressor, which we're gonna have later in signal chain. Is a taupe ozone 5 EQ with matching option for subtle timbre correction. Next thing, multi-bin compressor. Lowest band stays is almost untouched because I wanted to save low-end dynamics of mix. Second band is triggered mostly by snare, so as a result it jumps out much less. Same thing on third band. And finally fourth band to get rid of outstanding clicks which appeared after matching EQ as a side effect of 5 decibels boost on high end. Almost forgot that I made 7 decibels drop of incoming sensitivity to have enough of headroom and be able to set up compressor right way. Then I just compensated that drop on output with 7 decibels boost. Second, stereo imager. This time we use it as actual stereo controller to even out some of that stereo on mids and presence zones. And last thing is our regular ass limiter to get control on them peaks and gain loudness of the mix. So that's pretty much it. For those of you who want to get additional files pack, which includes Cubase template, full DI pack which also includes superior drummer preset, MIDI tracks and custom drum map, pack of mix-ready impulses used in this guide, pack of matching sessions for Isotope Ozone 5 EQ, pack of Pro Q presets, and REVERB 4 preset. You will find all of them shits in my private post on Patreon, which will be available after pledging $1. By doing this you will also get access for rest of my private content and help me keep doing what I do. Link is in the description. So hope you learned thing or two from this guide. See you next time.